Welcome once again to 3 Up and 3 Down. My name is Lou. For those of you that don't know me or are new to the channel, I'm a retired sports writer, a little bit of a fantasy expert. I've been playing since way back in the early 80s. I actually got kicked out of a number of leagues back before the internet when we actually had to do live drafts, and those were season-long fantasy. But these videos are mostly about DFS, daily fantasy sports, and how to make some money. I have taken down 3 big ones in the last 5 years, 3 major DFS tournaments, but all 3 on Draftking, ironically, although I also do play fantasy or FanDuel. And I'm here to give you some help. For the first time this year, we are going to do college football. This is for the Saturday afternoon slate on Draftking, which begins at 12 o'clock and goes through all the 3:30 games and a 4 o'clock game. There's 12 games on this Draftking slate. And again, if you don't know, I mentioned this back a couple of videos ago. I am a college football nut. I probably watch more college football than anybody you know, and probably 99% more than the so-called experts. I start tracking players when they're in high school. It helps me through not only to college football DFS, but also the NFL, as a lot of these players that come up through the college ranks I'm familiar with by the time they get to the league. For those of you that were here for the Thursday night NFL game and took my picks, I was able to still make about 60% profit. It was kind of a weird Thursday night. Our 6 picks did not include any of the top 3 final point getters. However, we had 5 of the next 6 on the list. And when you've got as many points out there as they did on Thursday night, that was able to generate a profit for me, hopefully generate a profit for you. And I will tell you when I lose, and there's many times I lose. A lot of these people say, oh yeah, I win 80% of the time. I do this, I do that. No, we're pretty straightforward here. We're just trying to make us all a little bit of money. So without any further ado, let's get to the slate. If you're not familiar with 3 Up and 3 Down, I'm going to give you 3 players that I think you should spend up on, and 3 players of my 3 down players that I believe are going to hit value at a much lower price. So we will start off with the 3 Up and running back Phil Mafah from Clemson. Clemson plays Wake Forest. Wake Forest is an awful defensive team against the run or the pass. This is the highest implied total of the 12 games that we have out there, and Clemson is favored by 20.5 points. I believe Clemson takes control early, both via the air and on the ground. I think Mafah carried last week 25 times for 154 yards. That is the most times he's carried this year. They found something. I mean, he's an outstanding player no matter what. But I have a feeling they're going to try to put them away on the ground. And Kate Klubnik could probably tear up that Wake Forest defense as well. And he will have a chance to do so at times. But I think Mafah is the guy that I would lean towards. Next up, we're going to go with wide receiver Ja'Cory Brooks from Louisville, who faces Virginia. Oh, by the way, Mafah is 6,500 on DraftKings. That is only the 9th highest priced running back. Ja'Cory Brooks, the receiver from Louisville, is 6,700. Louisville, simply put, is just not very good against the pass. Brooks is a burner. He only averages 5 catches per game, but those 5 catches come at almost a 20-yard clip per catch. I don't believe anybody in Virginia's secondary can match up with his speed or his athleticism. I think, 3 or 4 catches in this game, one of them is going to be a long one, and that's going to allow him to hit value easily. And finally, quarterback Eli Holstein from Pitt, who is 9,700. Pitt plays Cal this week, but it's not really about who they're playing. It's about what Holstein has done under head coach Pat Narduzzi's new offense at Pitt. Pitt was always that very... Sorry about that. I got an alarm going off. Must be another game that's going... Another fantasy game that I set for. That's going to happen from time to time. Anyways, Pat Narduzzi, who is actually from... His father coached at my hometown, which was Youngstown, Ohio at the time. Narduzzi has always been a boring offensive coach. They brought in a new OC this year, and Pitt is one of the surprise teams in the NCAA. And a lot of that has to do with quarterback Eli Holstein. 4 or 5 games this year, he's thrown for at least 300 yards. And here's a crazy stat, and talk about consistency. He has thrown exactly 3 touchdown passes in every single game this year. Not only that, he can also run. In the last 2 games, he has 169 yards and 3 touchdowns. It is Mr. Consistency. At 9,700, you're going to pay up for him. I think it's going to be well worth it. And when it comes, college football is a little bit different in DFS than the NFL. You can have 1 or 2 guys severely underperform and still get a pretty good profit out of it. In college, maybe you're allowed 1 and the performance can't be that low. There's a lot more scoring overall in the college game, a lot more points that are out there. So you have to have guys that are going to get touches and opportunities. Holstein has proven he can do everything so far, and I think he's going to continue that. Now we go to the 3 down section of the video. The 3 players that are cheaper priced and I believe are going to do very well. Number 1 is a very, very simple one. It is Tawee Walker, the running back from Wisconsin, at 5,300. The price has not caught up with him yet. He was splitting time with running back Ches Maluzzi for the first 4 games of the season. Maluzzi has had a lot of injuries, a lot of problems. He stepped away from the team. In his first game without Maluzzi last week, Walker had 19 carries for 94 yards and 3 touchdowns, and he did not play in the fourth quarter of a 52-6 win against Purdue. Walker at 5,300 might be the steal of this whole draft. Next up, we have another Clemson person. I mentioned that Kate Klub, the quarterback, is going to have to get something done in the air, and that's going to be wide receiver Antonio Williams, who is only 5,000. He's only 5,000 because he's not a big value receiver. He averages only about 4 catches and about 15 yards per catch. He does have 4 touchdowns this year, but he is Clemson's number 1 receiver against the worst pass defense in this slate. At 5,000, I'm going to take my chance with Antonio Williams. And finally, I'm not going to pick a quarterback in the low end. I believe you're going to have to pay up for some receivers at some point, so I wanted to give you an extra receiver that you can pay down for, because this slate is tough with receivers. You're going to have to pay up for somebody very good, possibly even higher than Brooks from Louisville. So the last one is going to be Malik Rutherford, the wide receiver from Georgia Tech. In the last 2 games, he has 15 catches for 189 yards. He has become quarterback Haynes King's favorite target. And I'll tell you what, Haynes King could be a good value, or not so much a value. He's up, I believe, at 8,700. But he's somebody that could hit value this week if you wanted to pay up for another quarterback. North Carolina is another one of those teams which cannot stop the pass. And I believe that Rutherford is going to have a couple long ones. He has a high ceiling. He's targeted a lot. And that's the last person I would go for. Against a review of our 3 up, Phil Mafah, running back Clemson, 6,500. Wide receiver Ja'Cory Brooks, Louisville, 6,700. Quarterback Eli Holstein from Pitt at 9,700. The 3 down will be running back Tawee Walker from Wisconsin at 5,300. Wide receiver Antonio Williams from Clemson at 5,000. And wide receiver Malik Rutherford from Georgia Tech at 5,300. I wish you guys luck tomorrow, win lots of money, and we will see you here next week for college football and Sunday for the NFL games. Have a good night.